When you visit Razza Pizza in Jersey City, New Jersey, and you think, wow, Dan Richer has built an amazing business. He has many employees. His restaurant is always busy. It must be so easy for him. He wrote a book, but it didn't start that way. The first 4 years Dan was open, he almost didn't make it. And then COVID hit, and it's been a struggle, but he's finally figured it out. And he's going to take us around his restaurant to show us his operation, how he makes the pizza, where he makes the dough, where he makes the bread, and how he thinks about business and turned this business around from worrying about if he was going to make it or not to being a successful place that people from all around the country want to visit. So let's get into today's Pizza Insider episode with Dan from Razza Pizza.
Yeah, we are at Razza, Jersey City, New Jersey. Here for just over 12 years. In this space specifically, and then during the pandemic we built out a space next door and doubled the size of the dining room. I flew to Italy when I was in college. I actually skipped my graduation ceremony, flew to Italy, realized exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and then took small steps every day to get there. So I bought a failing restaurant that was pre-existing in 2006. I was 26. Owned that for 10 years, sold it, and I've been here for 12 now.
Wow. What kind of pizzeria was that when you bought for? Was it just your traditional?
No, I also had 2 wood-fired ovens.
Oh, really?
That's the thing that attracted me to it.
So
the wood-fired ovens.
Neapolitan-ish stuff?
No. Ish, like very ish. Yeah, so the only similarity between our pizza and Neapolitan pizza is the size. Okay. It's a 12-inch pie. And the fuel source. The fuel source is the same. It's wood-fired ovens, but they're not Neapolitan ovens, which massively impacts the texture of the pizza.
When Dan first started, it didn't go great for him. The first 4 years were a massive struggle. We talked about that before the podcast got started, but here's his take.
Oh, massive struggle. Yeah, it took 4.5 years to get enough people in the door to be sustainable.
That's crazy. How did you continue to go?
Drive. Yeah. That's it. I got a lot of gasoline in my tank, and I was running out of gas at that moment. And thankfully, that last push that I did made it happen.
You went through like a whole life cycle of restaurant ownership in that 4 years.
For sure. Yeah. So in my 12 years of being here, I feel like I've lived 3-4 different lifetimes between the Yeah. For sure, between the first 4.5 years being so empty that we could barely keep our team, to the opposite, being so busy that you're just running around trying to make sure that that the guests that came in for the first time, that they come back because it was so good. And then the pandemic, that was another lifetime, and then post-pandemic reopening, double the amount of space. And
what did you guys do during the pandemic?
We did take out only through these windows. This was our front counter, and we opened these windows, and it worked. It worked.
I mean, you're lucky.
Yeah, and fortunately, the community really wanted to support us. They did not want us to go out of business because we were floundering for the first probably 3 months of the pandemic, doing takeout only out of one small wood-fired oven. Just wasn't working. So we ended up doing a bunch of construction in this space, took down a wall, ripped out all of our tables and banquettes, and moved our prep kitchen into the dining room, and we installed another wood-fired oven right next to the original one.
Wait, you installed another oven when you weren't doing anything?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah, had to. We weren't going to make it with takeout only. So we didn't have enough oven space. That was that bottleneck. So once we widened that bottleneck, then it was sustainable as takeout only.
So now that you've heard the backstory of how Razza got started, what happened to them during COVID and all of that, Dan is going to take us around the restaurant right now. He's going to show us the pizza area and the 2 wood-fired ovens. He's going to show us the new dining room they built. And then he's going to take us into the dough room and show us how they produce all of the dough and a couple of the new tech tools that they have that help him make the perfect dough for the pizzas over at Razza Pizza.
6 seats, super intimate. Yeah, these are our 2 big tables that seat 6. It's not quite enough. Walked in the door for the first time. I saw that wall, fell in love. and signed the lease. Originally, it was the entranceway to a vaudeville theater right around the turn of the century. That's the 18th century to the 19th century. Yeah, there's definitely character to the space, which my first restaurant had no character. It was drywall and a drop ceiling, and
That's it.
yeah, and which was amazing also, but this feels a lot better. Yeah, so then we have our little dining room area here. Then we have our 2 wood-fired ovens. So this one's the original. It's a team of 3 for each oven, a stretcher, a topper, and a baker. And all the pizzas land over here where they're expedited to either the dining room or takeout.
Do you do delivery here or no?
We do exclusively through Uber Eats. Prefer not to do delivery, but it helps us fill in the gaps, before the dining room gets filled up, and as the dining room is emptying out, we turn on Uber, and it's just found money.
One of the things that really stuck out to me when visiting Razza in Dan's place was how many people he has working there at one restaurant. And they were all having family meal before I got there, before the restaurant was opening, and they all seemed really happy, and they all have been working there for an extremely long time. And Dan explains his philosophy behind that.
It's a lot of responsibility. It's one I take very seriously, which is why I don't have 10 restaurants, specifically that reason alone. That's the hardest part by far.
Is it?
Yeah, finding the right people, good, kind, genuine, caring people. It's hard to find. Nobody comes in here knowing how to make pizza or to be a server at our restaurant.
Yeah, every time?
Every day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who cooks the family meal?
Back of the house team.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do they decide what they get?
They do.
They're like, hey, what do we have on the menu today?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we build a menu out, a week in advance, and they know what they got to do.
That's awesome.
Got to feed each other.
Right?
We spend our time working feeding strangers. What about feeding each other? I spend more time with the team here than I do with my kids.
Yeah.
Got to take care of them.
Yeah.
So we blew a hole through the wall.
What was here before?
Women's clothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we had an extensive build out. There's like miles of plumbing and electric running under these floors that we had to put in. It's not the ideal way to build a restaurant.
It looks like 2 different restaurants.
Yeah. Well, we have these big, beautiful windows here. I was never going to make that feel dark and cavernous and moody like that, right? These windows just let in so much light. Like, why not run with it? Right? We take the same approach to design as we take with our food. Like if we have these perfect, amazing raw ingredients, I don't care what it is. Let's try not to change what it is, right? Just give it a better life. Give it a better home. That was all here. So like, why not just highlight that?
I like it.
And after 10 years of being in a dark, cavernous space, I personally need a little brightness, a little light. So that's our bread wall. Yeah, we'll sell loaves of bread. We don't do too many. We don't sell too much in loaves of bread. It's not the best business to be in my opinion. Why we charge like $8 for a loaf, but the amount of time and energy we put into each loaf of bread. At the end of the day, when you see the sales of like $240, you're like, why am I selling loaves of bread? It's much better to cut it up and make a sandwich out of it or serve it some other way.
Right.
Yeah, Joya Pizza. There it is right there.
You're a best-selling author.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I probably will never make.
It's something that I never thought would happen.
No
way, man.
How did you get to
I was
that?
I was a mess up in school. Yeah, I didn't like reading, writing. I liked math, but didn't do well in any of it. I figured out how to get through schooling, and that's when my real education began, is when I could decide for myself what I want to study. And when I am in control of what I want to learn, I am a sponge. Like I crave knowledge at like a very deep level. Like I have to know the answer to these questions that I have. So that, coupled with a very intense sense of curiosity, is like a winning combination for being a psychopath at pizza. Like I want to know these questions and I need the answers.
You found your passion.
Yeah, been better at a trade school than a standard four-year college. Like I would be a great electrician, plumber, or carpenter, because it's basically the same thing as making pizza. They understand the properties that they're working with. Let's take plumbing, right? You learn the properties of water and gas and how they flow and how they move and what pipes to use. And then you learn the techniques for how to join those two pipes together. And that's how plumbing works. Pizza is the same thing. We learn about our raw materials, which are flour, water, salt, yeast, tomato sauce, and cheese. And then we learn how to put them together through techniques like autolyse and bulk fermentation. And you end up with a great product.
We're about to take a look at Dan's production for the dough, but one of the questions I had for him was, how did you learn how to do this and be such a dough nerd that you are taking the pH level and all of this information? Was it YouTube? Was it books? I think we're all trying to figure out how to get the best possible product, but where do we get that information from? I asked Dan that, and this was his response.
So this was kind of before YouTube had so much information on it. It was all just stupid videos back then, which is great, but it was all books, trial and error, because I owned a restaurant at the time. I bought a failing restaurant, so I inherited their pizza recipe. And I tried to make it better. I tried to make it better by getting better tomatoes and making our own mozzarella, but it was never getting any better at a certain point. It wasn't until I started reading bread making books and trying to bake my own bread, that's when the pizza started getting a little bit better. And have some acidity, which is great. And mozzarella cheese is always going to have richness because of its fat and some protein, and that combination unto itself, tomato sauce with cheese, is a winning combination. But you got to have something to put it on, and that is where it all starts.
That's what separates you from other places, right?
For sure, yeah. And there's probably 30 steps of the process of mixing dough and fermenting dough, and it gives us all these different opportunities to learn more about the technique. The more we can break down the process into its individual components, the easier it is for us to teach and hold ourselves accountable for a great product.
Are you still experimenting as much as you used to?
Always.
Yeah?
Yeah, so it keeps me going. Mostly here, a little bit at home. Yeah. Oh, we just getting started. Yeah, so we got a little kitchen space. This is where we bake our bread. These are all the reject loaves. The scores.
Those in my pocket on the way out.
Exactly. Scores didn't open on these so well, so we won't sell those. We use them for our meatballs.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Bread?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we take all of our day-old bread, and we break it down, and it gets soaked in the buttermilk that we get because we make so much butter here. And that's what we incorporate into our meatballs, and gives them a really light and tender texture.
Wait, you make butter here?
Fuck yeah, man.
Oh, wow. You do everything here.
Apologies for my potty mouth.
That's fine.
So we do, we bake our bread in here. We'll test pizzas in here. If I'm ever developing a new recipe, we'll test it in here. We cook a lot of other things in here too. Big pies, square pies, round pies, New York style, anything that I'm.
Add a new style of pizza here?
Yeah, it's what we're doing is working. So it's really hard to introduce something that slices really require a front counter. Yeah. With a display, with an oven right there. It's just how slice culture really works. So a sit-down restaurant, slices, it's not my thing. Exactly. So if we ever do another restaurant, this is our test oven for it. They're great. But to be honest, you can make great pizza in any oven, whether it's gas, electric, wood-fired, coal, as long as you understand how your machinery works, and then you take the steps to alter your dough recipe for the oven. Like your dough recipe has to be built around your oven. That's the name of the game.
How often are you changing your recipe now, or is it set? Like, can you change it at all?
It is not set. it is in constant motion. We test out new flours every few months, and we'll do side-by-side trials to see if a new flour can be better than the current flour blend that we're using, or we'll change temperatures, we'll change hydration pretty frequently.
Really?
Yeah, based on the time of year, based on the flour, the moisture in the flour itself, that it does change. So we have to change with it. And it depends on your circumstances. Like, let's say you get a new walk-in refrigerator. Well, it's gonna cool differently than your old one. And you need to adapt your dough to the conditions. Like, we did air conditioning work in here last year, and overnight our temperatures were different. And it took us a few weeks to get it back on track, to know the stability of the HVAC system overnight.
Wow.
Simple things like that
I can't believe that would make a difference.
Huge difference.
Wow, that's crazy.
Huge difference. Come on, let's go see the rest. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's our dough room. They're doing some dairy stuff right now. He's making mascarpone cheese for our tiramisu. We make that.
Make everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. He's got a test pie for me. First pie out of the oven.
Is that the one for you?
Yep.
Like you bake it, make sure everything's cooked right?
Yeah. And it's really, we're judging the dough. We're judging our yesterday's work based on that. See how well it baked, how much caramelization, what's the texture like, what's the structure like, how easy was it to open. All these things we're checking.
Have you ever had to
Hell yeah.
a whole day's worth of dough away?
Way too many times.
What do you do at that point?
I haven't had to alter our business in a long time, but that's one of the reasons why studying was so important, because it's embarrassment mitigation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In a perfect world, we'd have a generator and all these things, but we just don't. So there's inevitably a circumstance arises. So we do all of our fermentation in here. We got a nice big mixer. Here, let's go in. Yeah, so we got a water meter, we have a water chiller, and look. Oh,
Is that butter?
That's butter.
Are you making butter?
He's making butter.
Wow.
Yeah. So we make a lot of butter here.
Just for everything you cook, right?
No. Yeah. You'll see when you eat after. We'll do a whole butter thing for you. We have like 5 different butters that we make.
Dude, this is a really nice setup.
It's pretty good. Could be
room too.
It could be bigger. Yeah. And we had a split duct AC unit up there where you see the tile is a little messy.
Yeah.
We had a split duct unit, but that's not the optimal conditions, for that type of machine where there's so much flour in the air.
You get clogged?
Yeah. In the first 3 months, we realized that we had to rip it out. So now we have it attached to our main system, but we have this remote thermostat that this room controls one of our air conditioning units.
Oh, so this room is just its own self thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, there's ducts elsewhere
so you can
for that
control
unit
the temperature of just
based
this
on
room.
this. Yeah, it's a lot more controlled. But you see, like in the winter time, if we open this back door, there's
Well, that's outside.
There's a little buffer, but it's not air conditioning or heated. So in the summertime, it lets a lot of hot air in. In the wintertime, it lets a lot of cold air in. So we have to be conscious of that and make sure that we just have to be conscious of it, because if we see it, then we can control it. Yeah, so we take our sourdough starter, which is probably in the fridge right now to slow it down, but we'll get that out for you when Jonah comes back. But he's pasteurizing eggs here for our Caesar dressing.
So you make everything with dressing?
Everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a ton of work. No wonder.
Yeah. We try to make everything. There's Jonah.
Hi.
Hey, Jonah. Can you grab the starter?
Yes.
Thank you, buddy. If we can make it better than we can buy it, I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
So There's certain things that we just can't make better than buying it, like Parmesan or Reggiano cheese. We're not gonna make that. So this is our starter. This was just knocked down and put into the refrigerator, slow it down. Its next feed is in a couple of hours, but you can see it.
That looks great.
If you forget it for a long time, it's over.
How long can you let it go before you...
If you refrigerate it, it can last 6 months, 9 months, yeah.
Feeding it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just give it a good feed, wait like an hour. It takes a lot of nurturing. I mean, it takes a lot of nurturing. Like we manage its pH. We have a pH meter. You know, we're checking this. This is going to be somewhere in the 4.1, 4.2 area. If I had to guess. Ooh, it's going lower. So right at 4.0, 4.04.
And what would you like ideally like it to be?
It depends. It depends on what we're looking for. It depends on the moment. It's in constant motion, so that's why you put it in the refrigerator to slow it down. But we don't want to let it get. You don't want to let it get below 3.8 ever. Like we don't ever go that low. But the lower you go, the more assertive the flavors can be. So if you like it like very acidic, and I don't. So,
Yeah.
so we hover in that range.
Gotcha.
Like this really needs a feed now, but we'll put it in the fridge, chill it out for a little bit, and then in a couple of hours when it's the right time, it'll get another feeding, and then tomorrow morning we'll feed it again. We mix dough in the morning with whatever's left, and then we bulk ferment for a couple of hours, divide, round. Bought this little thing with a performance guarantee, thankfully, because we're still unsure if we're gonna use it. We'll do, it depends on the day, but anywhere between 400 and 700.
Wow.
Yeah, so by hand it's a lot of work, but we can go faster than the machine. But we're always looking for newer technology. I mean, the water meter alone has saved so many hours, because we used to sit with 2 buckets, a bucket of warm water, a bucket of ice water, and mix the two together to find the target water temperature. And now we have a hose and we hook it up to the machine and just dumps in.
And it's accurate, like you don't test it?
It's very accurate.
Yeah, so you just set the temperature.
We test it. I'll do it twice a year just to make sure. Yeah, so we have a less expensive one. So we have a dial, kind of like your shower faucet.
Okay.
So you kind of find the right temperature. This is what reads it, and then we input the amount that we want, and then it'll dose out that amount. They have digital ones now that you type in, they're like thousands of dollars more expensive than this one. So we opted to spend that money on a water chiller, so this thing has 3 inputs. It's a hot input, room temperature, and a freezing cold. So we have a machine behind this wall that all it does is refrigerate water. Yeah, but so on a hot day, I can get water that's 38 degrees into the mixing bowl without breaking a sweat, without mixing ice and doing that whole thing. We feed a lot of people with what comes out of here.
Yeah.
And minimally, it'll take us 5 hours to make a batch of dough. We have emergency recipes that start to finish can produce an equally as good, if not better, pizza in 5 hours versus overnight, 2 days, 3 days. We have all those different formulas. So it's
trial and error over the years.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Last year was big for a travel dough, because I do pop-ups all over the place, and we wanted a way to mix our dough here, roll into a pop-up, and be making pizza that same. You're good. Making pizza that same day. And so we spent the entire year working out a recipe that actually works, that we can fly on an airplane with, that is flexible enough to handle flight delays and transportation from the airport to wherever we're going.
You're gonna have to do a cookbook. So your cookbook that you have is more for, I mean, it's for everybody.
It's for the home baker and the professional.
You're gonna need to do a pizza making cookbook.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like
all those recipes.
Yeah. 'Cause there's only like four main dough recipes in my current cookbook.
Yeah.
I have so many more.
Everybody's gonna be watching this video and being like, I need that recipe.
Pre-order now.
We'll put the link in the description.
For the record, there is no second cookbook.
You're never gonna come?
I want to. Yeah, my wife would kill me though. If they're not paying attention to the very minute details like water temperature, like the temperature of your ingredients, understanding that every bag of flour might be a little bit different. One year to the next, your flour is definitely going to be different. So there's this in-between buffer zone that we just went through about 2 months ago where the mill starts blending a small percentage of the new crop to the old crop so you get used to it. And then that percentage ends up being inverted where it's all the new crop. But they do that so that there's not this clean break from one year's crop to the next, because bakers would have a nightmare of a time dealing with that.
That's great.
And your recipes will change. You'll need to subtly adapt it. Yeah, this is Ever. He's worked here forever. ¿Cuántos años tienes aquí?
I've been like 9 years.
He's been here 9 years, and he's learning how to work the oven now.
What was you doing before?
Everything. Started as a server and assistant in the dining room pre-pandemic, and then during the pandemic, we had no tables to take care of, so he switched to the back of the house, and now he's worked his way through every single position. This is the second to last one.
How long do they have to train before you get out? Like, how you can take over?
It really depends on the person. It depends on how much they understand heat transfer, you know, how well they build fires and how much they want it. But all of our guys everybody wants it. They want to do a good job. There's not one person here that wants to do a half-assed job. Everybody's great.
The pizza looked great coming out of it.
Okay.
Last question I always ask people is, what advice would you give somebody who's looking to open a pizzeria? Like, you've been around the block. What advice would you have for them or yourself back in the day when you were just getting started?
Having faith in yourself and conviction and making sure that your gas tank is always full, or at least half full. You gotta take care of yourself, and you have to make sure that it's something that you really want to do. If you just kind of want to do it, or if there's any trepidation, don't do it, because it's hard, it's challenging. I always thought of this business as being kind of basic. It's very simple, right? We make a product, we sell the product. If we make people happy, they're going to come back. But it's far more complex than that, and you're going to have to learn every step of the way, whether it's understanding how a proper restaurant P&L should look, or a balance sheet. That is should be your guiding light, because if the P&L ain't working, business is not working. If business is not working, you should just go home.
You have a hobby.
Yeah.
You don't have a business.
Exactly.
You just make pizza at home and have fun doing it.
Yeah, have more fun. It's a responsibility to employ people and be in control of their growth and development. And I genuinely want everybody working here to make a ton of money. I feel responsible for that. It's one of the reasons why I'm here every day. I'm responsible for that. So you got to show up. It's not a hands-off business. But keep going. That's the big piece of advice.
Well, I appreciate you having me here and let me kind of hang out in the kitchen and show everybody. So appreciate you. Where can people go follow you guys on social media?
Social media, it's at Razza NJ, like New Jersey. The website is razzanj.com, and I'm Dan Richer.
We'll link all that up in the description of this video, so
Love
come
it.
check it out. I'm excited to go try some pizza now.
This is the only episode that I'm not going to listen to on my commute home.
You gotta watch it on YouTube.
Oh, I got to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta watch it on YouTube. Subscribe.
My daughter's probably going to watch it, but I'm not going to.
I'll send it to her. She might. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great to see you.
All All right, so thank you so much, Dan, for having us in and being so gracious to show us around the kitchen and have us kind of interrupt your dinner service. But I think it's important to show these pizzerias behind the scenes and what it takes to actually go into the great pizza that you see on Instagram or when you walk into the restaurant. So thank you so much to Dan. If you're watching this like Dan's daughter, hit that subscribe button. Hit like, leave a comment where you're watching this from. We always like to hear where our audience is watching from. And if you own a pizza shop and you want us to make a visit, whether we're in your city in the next month or two or in the very far future, drop a comment below. Where is your pizza shop located? Drop a link to it. If you have a YouTube channel, we'll check it out. It will add to the list of places we must visit when we are hitting the road again in 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Pizza Insider. We'll see you right back here next week, everybody.